we are going to have an amazing interview here, ladies and gentlemen, with Missy McCracken. And she's talking about bringing your umbrella, that clear umbrella, because there might be a shitstorm in your forecast. The question is, how do you respond to it? We're going to dive into how do you respond when life gets tough, difficulties, obstacles, adversity. How do you respond and show up? So we're going to dive into that. Before that, I'm talking to you. You're becoming your greatest possible self. So keep showing up. Keep taking those steps into your GPS. And I acknowledge you for showing up, for loving yourself enough to grow yourself and become the best version of yourself. Keep going. Next up is the iTunes review of the week. This week, it's by Joshua Lysick. And Joshua says there's personal development, and then there's GPS, greatest possible self. Chris, I loved your chat with Martha. Every tip to build rapport with romantic partners works in business, too. In love, you want yes. So it is in sales. Thank you for bringing on guests whose advice applies to 99.99% of life. P.S. You are so high energy, I feel the room come alive as I listen. Joshua, thank you so much for giving us that review. And if you listening or watching right now want a chance to get shouted out and celebrated and honored as one of our amazing listeners and just audience members and people who are supporting the GPS platform by tuning in consistently, frequently, and loving and commenting on the show, the live, taking screenshots, go to beardgps.com/iTunes. Or search Greatest Possible Self on the Apple Podcast Store, and you can give us a review there. Thank you in advance for doing that and sharing what you love most about the show and what you want to see even more of. I'm going to introduce Missy in just a sec. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. This is going to be a spicy interview with some gold nuggets for you to implement and take away and start to improve your life right away. Let's introduce Missy. Missy is a former lawyer and NCAA Division I All-American swimmer turned certified professional life coach and Energy Leadership Index master practitioner who specializes in mastering how we perceive the world. Missy believes that life is an adventure and fully exploring it is the value. As you get to know Missy, you will see that she loves connecting deeply with people and partnering with them to raise their energetic potency to maximum capacity. It is her wish that every human experiences the true joy and happiness that comes when higher energy rises. And we are going to go deep into that energetic potency with Missy here with us today. Missy, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman?
I am, Chris. I am.
Woo, woo. Yeah. We are live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you for being here, Missy. We're going to have a lot of fun, definitely. And we're going to dive right into the theme of today, which is an extraordinary life. Missy, what does that mean for you?
I think for me, an extraordinary life is appreciating all parts of the journey at every part of the journey. So, finding the way to appreciate the darkest of the valleys and the highest of the highs. And it's in the adventure of the journey that the extraordinary life comes to life.
Love it.
And so, I just kind of feel like it's, even talking with my kids, it's kind of the day-to-day stuff that brings the extraordinary life into existence, and it's just the appreciation for it that makes it extraordinary.
Yeah, it's like how do we take what life gives us, circumstances, things, and make them magical, make them wondrous, make them expansive and alive, and like truly be in that moment, in the present moment. Because if we're somewhere in the future or somewhere in the past, in my opinion, we're not experiencing the magic. We're not experiencing the extraordinary life. And even in something as simple as doing chores, right? Like that is and can be extraordinary if we choose to appreciate it, to embody like who we are for the world in doing those little mundane things.
Yes, I could not agree more. And I think, my business is centered around changing your energy around things. And I truly believe it's your energy and your mindset that change your reality. And so it's about, like you said, finding the joy and even the mundane, the dishes, the chores, the stuff you don't want to do. And it's finding the way to appreciate that that's what you're doing now, and including your values in that so that it is an enjoyable outcome. If you have a value of fun, making everything fun, then while you're doing your chores, you do something to make it fun. It's not that the chores themselves are fun. It's that you're implementing your value of fun to make it something that you can appreciate.
Mm. I love it. I love it, Missy. This is gold. So I want people to know a little bit more about your energy coaching and what you're doing to increase their potency and capacity. It's freaking, I love the words that you use. It's so powerful branding and description of what you do for people. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that entails.
So I partner with people individually. I guess when I decided I wanted to be a certified professional coach, I kind of went through all the jobs I'd ever held in my life and thought about what do I really like to do? What
Yeah.
is the thing that's the common thread, the theme through all of them? And it was just that, like helping people be the best version of themselves, whether it's on a spelling test or whether it's at the NCAA, helping athletes, because I had a career at the NCAA, helping athletes with their certification process or understanding the rules, or I was a public defender for a while in domestic violence court, helping those people. So it's always about, what is it that I can do to help people be the best version of themselves. And so then when I originally was looking at coaching, one of the things that came immediately to mind was bringing coaching, life coaching to athletics, because I feel like we've really strayed in our in youth sports. Athletics used to be a thing of that sports were kind of like a small microcosm of what real life was, and now sports are becoming life. Yeah. So and then it just kind of rolled from there to be like, this is really even more universal than sports, and how can I not only help athletes but then help individuals tap into what I call your zone of genius, or your highest energetic potency, so that you can find that place where you can get the most out of every part of your adventure. And so it might do it through individual partner coaching, or have a process, have different workshops and stuff that people can work through, but it really is about where the person that you're working with wants to go in their journey, and how you can provide just the next breadcrumb for them in that journey.
Yeah. Wow. That's gold. I really love how it's each person's own journey, own exploration of their path. And I also love how you mentioned that it's like our identity is being tied up with what we do and the results that we achieve, especially in sports. And I think that's what challenges. I had George Carroll on earlier today, who was in his senior year of college, ready to become an NFL player and be a star NFL player. And he had a freak accident, injury, and his whole identity was caught up in being a football player. And if people are so attached to that, and they haven't really invested in just being mindful, being present, being aware of who they are, their many gifts and talents, and how to be flexible, resilient, and adaptable, then they could experience some serious trauma and difficult times, and potentially risk of suicide if they had any kind of setbacks, any kind of things that life might throw at them that it didn't go as planned. And I think to give them, these young youth and next generation, an opportunity to get clear that they are not defined by some kind of action or activity, I think is really important for the youth, Missy.
Well, it's interesting. A couple of things came to mind as you were saying that. I firmly, and this is my belief system, some people refer to God, source, universe, and a group of us decided we were just going to refer to that as Gus, because God, universe, source, it works. It's just easy to encapsulate them all into one term. So I firmly believe in my belief system that we're spiritual beings, having a human experience. And so part of the human predicament is drama. And like you're talking about with these athletes, my research, I had collegiate athletes fill out a survey and respond. And overwhelmingly, there's issues with transitioning from life of sport to life without sport. And so much of it is based on your identity or your lack of identity without sport, and how we do so much in sports to take away our internal GPS system and require the coach, to tell us what, I can't tell you how many instances of, this is choice. The coach's the instruction to the athlete is this is your choice, but there's clearly a right choice and a wrong choice,
Right.
or there's still the athlete is still asking, well, tell me what you want me to do. And that really dumbs down the athlete's internal guidance system to know the right answers. And I believe that we all hold our own right answers. And the more that we're dumbing that down, the more that the athlete then isn't able to tap into it when it's time to move on to life after sport. So I think that's, that all of it all ties together, and it sets you up, your earlier guest, when sport's taken away, if you haven't had that where a coach is constantly preaching, I want you to hear that voice behind the thoughts, that that's your GPS. What's that voice telling you to do? What's that voice have to say about this? Or when you ask yourself, what kind of athlete do you want to be? Then the voice, what does that athlete, like, say you decide you want to be an Olympic, an Olympian, and you ask yourself, what does an Olympic athlete do? What do they think? How do they be? And the answers that you come to are your answers,
the most
to
important
being,
ones.
Your answers to being the Olympian. And I think it's interesting. We spend so much time like making sure that our kids are realistic about their vision, and without thinking much about like that really kids are where we start, and then it's all this forgetting of who we are that happens through trauma and through life events and the shitstorm, that it's then the remembering that has to take place to get you back to being the fully functional, optimal human being. So when we take things that kids say and we'd say, be realistic, or that's not, only the person that has the capabilities to eventually reach that dream has that dream. So the universe isn't going to embed on you a dream that is out of your potential to receive, one that you feel deeply in your heart.
Right.
So you may still have the dream and not reach it, but the potential is there if you can do all the things energetically to align your action to it.
I love it. This is such a powerful conversation. I'm loving this, Missy. Before we go any further, I want to go back into your journey and talk about how did you get connected with all this beautiful empowerment mindset, paradigm upgrades that you have picked up, or releasing what you had like layered on, so to speak, from society, whatever, all the programming. Where did your journey of remembering, so to speak, really begin for you and really start to accelerate?
Sure. I think that very young, I felt a very strong sense of intuition, and then started to, have that turned off or dumbed down by all the requests of whatever, my parents saying, they would prefer that I did this for a profession, or, all the things that happen to everybody. And you kind of start to lose a little bit of being able to truly hone into it. And then, I was a elite athlete at a young age, and part of my experience in sport was sexual abuse. And so I felt through that experience, I really turned off listening to myself at all, and spent a lot of time worrying about and taking care of what everybody else might need me to do. And that took years to overcome. And then in my adult life, because my vision, or my goggles, my glasses, had a lens of that history, then I was making decisions with that lens on, and my glasses just needed cleaned. And it took me a while to figure out how to clean them. Regular Kleenex wasn't working, and regular, so you have to try all the different things to get to. And then, I had experiences when my family was young, and we had trauma in my family. And then my daughter had an illness that was potentially fatal. And it was just like one thing after another for a period of probably 10 years. And then all of a sudden, I just remember thinking to myself, like, I know my way. and so then I started looking for things to kind of reinforce that thought. Like, how do I know my way, and what makes me think I know my way? And reading, Louise Hay,
Yeah.
and listening to Abraham Hicks, and the Gary Zukav, and
Hmm.
uh, you know uh, the Untethered Soul, just everything I could get my hands on, and those things just kind of brought me back. Like, I remembered as I was reading certain captions that I would be, oh, I know what that is. That's this. And I say this all the time. I don't believe there's nothing new under the sun.
Mm.
There's just different interpretations of the same stuff. And I see religion to some degree being that. And I appreciate so much what you're doing, because I do think that even if people are talking about the same topics, everybody's interpretation is different. And so you're reaching so many more people by having so many interpretations of different things on. So that's kind of like the story of how I started remembering. I just started, grabbing everything I could get my hands on, and then deciding to be a coach, because I kind of thought, if you can be where I wasn't sure where I was going to, how I was going to take my next breath, feeling that whole collapse of everything. I had this, by everybody's standards on the outside, this great life, but was living with all this inner turmoil, and it really just took finding myself again to be in a place of an extraordinary life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's when the shitstorm happens, that's
Hmm.
when we have to go deeper. Otherwise we will, we'll kill ourselves with anxiety and fear and depression and things like that. Like, we will literally waste away with dis-ease. And our own internal GPS is like, hey, Missy, Chris, you are off track. Like, get back on track.
Yes.
And then it'll like, reach out to the universe and pull things to us, experiences, information, people, whatever, that have us remember how powerful we are, what we deserve, what we are here to experience.
Well, and I think we start with this place of like, oh, that's an uncomfortable feeling,
Mm.
and then we have so many uncomfortable feelings that then it becomes, now your body is starting to manifest it with like uncomfortable, sickness,
Yep.
whole body sickness,
Yep.
and it just goes, and then it eventually like encapsulates all parts of your life. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and I think it's always going back for me. It's finding that place that's just one thought better
Yes.
than what you currently are. And I can remember, when I was talking about earlier, like not knowing where my next breath would come, and literally the only thing I could think was just take the next breath, and that even felt better. Just take the next breath. Just take the next one. And then once I was breathing okay, then it was like, okay, let's try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then, and that was the next best thought in that moment. And that sounds ridiculous now from the place where I am, but when you're deep down in it, the next breath is the next best thought. And so you have to just keep finding and baby stepping your way to, energy level ups, grade ups in energy. And it starts with just the smallest thing that can just change your thoughts to be a little bit better than what they were even 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think that's the focus on what's the next step versus we see people where it's so easy to compare ourselves. It's so easy, for our brains to say, oh my gosh, Missy has this life and it's so freaking awesome. She's doing everything she wants. She's coaching people, making a massive impact. I feel so lost. I feel so hopeless. I feel so overwhelmed. I feel so, underneath it all, just trying to get up and grasp for the air. It's so easy today with social media to compare ourselves to others. And I think to just focus on that next step and to really get present with the basics, with going to nature, putting our feet in some grass, breathing, closing our eyes, just reminding ourselves that, hey, it's okay. And even it's okay to not be okay. Like, I'm not okay right
Yes.
now,
Yes. Yeah. And I think, I think those are good points, like the meditation, the going in nature, because that's just one way to feel one step better,
Yeah.
right? Those are
Yeah.
just, and so for some people that's putting on music. For
Yep.
some people it's stopping what they're doing, admiring something in their surroundings. It's just whatever, and then obviously when things are going really well, it's also requiring yourself to think the next best thought so
Yep.
that the abundance keeps happening and the attraction keeps, you're still pulling towards the same desire,
Yeah.
and the momentum stays.
I like
But I
to.
think, yeah, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I like to say or ask the universe, show me how it gets better than this. Show me how it gets
Yes,
even better. Yes.
yes, yes. Yeah, and I think so many times, like we sit in a spot. Well, there are two things that came up for me when you were talking, and the first is the we spend so much time thinking about where we want to be that we forget
Mm,
to do. And I call that forward gap thinking.
yeah.
We forget the backward gap thinking. We forget to
Mm,
appreciate and show gratitude and
wow.
feel good about all the progress that's happened
Amen.
already.
Amen.
And so then it doesn't feel any better because you're never really in life. I mean, the whole life journey, you're never really arriving to
Right.
anything. There, you're always questing forward.
Yeah.
You may be comfortable and you may enjoy right where you're at, which you should, but there's still a piece of you that's evolving to something else.
Yeah.
And so appreciating the distance that you've traveled can even be your next best thought. It's in appreciating where you are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I also know about quantum energy and how it can affect, we can step into the future and be more of that person and live as that person, think what that person would think, smell the smells that person would smell, what are the conversations that person's having, what are the habits, how does that person feel in their body, and then also to go back to the past, to those good moments or even the not so good moments, and appreciate those, to redefine what those mean to us, give those a more positive meaning, to feel a little bit better. Doesn't mean that it's going to make it okay that it happened, so to speak, and
Right.
it was the right thing. No, it still it could really hurt. And how do we transform that into meaning in the present, to appreciate, to be grateful, to feel expansive about what happened because it led us to who we are today.
Yes, and I call that the sifting for gold, right? Like
Mm,
it's like you've got this pile and you've got to sift through it. And it's
yeah.
the only time that it's really a you know, I use this word loosely, but a bad thing is is when you forgot to go back and sift for gold
Yep.
in it.
Yep.
You've got to go back and pick the nuggets up. You've got to pick those little flecks of gold up and put them together and walk away with your tiara.
Mm,
You got to place them all the pieces
yeah.
for it to. And sometimes it's years and years and years before you know the meaning of why that happened or how there is a nugget
Yeah.
of gold
Yeah.
in that experience.
Yeah, because sometimes the charge might be so intense that you can't even get to the next step, right? It's no,
Right.
there's so much hurt, there's so much anger, there's so much rage, there's so much just depression or whatever that lowest vibration of energy is. It takes feeling it, and that could take months, or even years to be able to free that energy up, depending on how deeply it has entrenched itself.
Yeah, and I used to hate the word victim. Like when people would
Mm,
say you're a victim of sexual abuse or sexual assault, um, it bothered me so deeply, and
mm,
I decided that for me, that the label, and I think it bothers me because it's not through my own actions that I receive the label.
mm,
It's through someone else's actions that
mm,
I've been added that label in my list of things, right?
mm,
So it bothered me so deeply when it had nothing to do with me. That person was going to do those things regardless of whether it was me or somebody else.
no,
And so I really resisted it. And then I realized actually there's some claiming, if you're using it in service of you,
mm, mm,
of voice,
mm.
I can say I'm a victim to relate to other people that have had the same experience.
Yes.
I can say I'm a victim for purposes of filing a police report.
Yes.
So there's uses when I can claim it when it's in service of me and who I am and what I want to be and become or whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's other times where that label, you start to buy into all the things that the label
come with
it means, you know? And if you look at like the antonyms, I remember going back and at one point in my life, looking up the antonyms for it and what it means. And it's like, okay, all of those things happen. You're surrendering to it. You're, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, if you look up, like, words associated with it, you just become that in your actions and what you start to expect in life. And you just can't quite get around the other side of it. Then it's no longer in service of you, of who you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to do. So it was like learning to like use that label, not use it, but you know what I mean? Make sure that I'm owning it in service of what I want to do, be, and go where I want to go.
Yeah, and I think people can tap into that, into how it feels when they talk about it. If they talk about being a victim, like, yeah, this happened to me, and do you have still like a massive negative emotional charge around it? And you say, you know, I was a victim, and then you like almost go into this pity state or helplessness state, or, you know, triggers all the trauma that comes up, then that doesn't serve you. But if you say, yes, you know, I was a victim of abuse, and I'm not defined by it, and like I'm here to share with you today that even though I'm not going to be trapped there. So I know some of you might be still feeling that way, feeling like it defines you, feeling like you can't get rid of this feeling or this burden or this identity. Right. And I'm here to share with you that you are more than that label. And I think that that's like an empowering place in how it might sound when someone has transcended the label.
Yes. And I think that sometimes with victimhood, with all acts of sexual abuse, I feel like there is so much shame around it. And the shame is another trauma in and of itself. But when you're victimized by it and you hide because of the shame, then everything, you're never showing up. So for me, it's about like, you're never really then truly showing up in your highest, brightest light. And the universe needs everybody. Like, I think it's so funny when people say things like, I need to be well balanced. Well, you personally just need to do the stuff you do well, really well, and stay focused on what you're doing well, really well. And the universe needs to be well balanced. And in order for the universe to be well balanced, everybody has to be shining in their brightest light. And if you're cloaked in shame, your light is dimmed, and the whole universe suffers the consequences of that. And so it's, you know, all that is tied into it, you know, using things to be in service of you so that your light can shine the brightest. And I think people get stuck in, you know, we were talking about the backward gap thinking and forward gap thinking. And we spend time focusing on where we want to be. Like, I want to be over this, or I want to be the Olympian, or I want to, you know, whatever. And really it's like a 5-step process in my mind about how you get there. And it's, you know, first you decide what you want, where you want to go, what, you know, not goal, but what the vision is. And you have to be very clear about your vision. And then you have to focus on it and, you know, visualize it, journal it, decide what it is for you that you, how you're going to get there. Not so much the how, but like, what are those, what is your way?
I hear being. It's like decide who you're committed to being, and then everything sources from that being. Yes.
And then you have to believe in it. Like, you have to believe you're entitled to it, that what you're doing will get you there, that your belief in it is enough, that, you know, all of those things. And then it's a matter of like aligning your energy behind it. And that's where you have to put yourself in a place of constantly raising your energetic vibration so that you're in the receiving mode for what you're asking for, in your, you know, transition to the next level up in your life or in your energy or wherever it is that you're trying to take yourself. And then you take action, and your action is then aligned. And with aligned action, then great things happen.
So you mentioned the 5 steps were decide, focus, believe, align, and action.
Yep. Align, energy. Yep. And action. Yep.
So I'm curious about the focus. I'm not super clear on what the distinction is between decide, focus, and believe. Can you break that down a little bit more?
Sure, I'd be happy to. For me, like, deciding is about actually committing.
Mhm.
Like, I'm deciding this is what I want, and I want that more than I want the status quo of right
Yeah.
now. And I am willing to do, and then the focus comes in, right? I'm
Yeah.
willing to keep that thought present
Mhm.
in everything I'm doing, that this is where I want to be. Let's use weight loss for an example, because it's easy in this situation.
Mhm.
So, like, I decide I want to be, 10 pounds lighter.
Right.
Well, so that's the focus. And then, I mean, that's the decision. And then to focus on it, I have to know that I want that more than this.
Yeah.
So as I'm making my meal for that meal time, I'm thinking to myself, I want that more than I want the current status. So I will make decisions and focus in a way that aligns with that decision to be the forward place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you have to believe, and the believing is more about believing in it than believing that it's the right thing for you. It's like the believing in the process, believing that for yourself, believing that you're entitled to it, believing that the receiving is just at your fingertips.
It's like faith. It's like faith. It's the knowingness that it's on its way, and just to trust the process.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. So decide, focus, believe, align your energy, and then take action. This is great. And so when a shitstorm is happening, people can start with this 5-step formula to say, I'm in the middle of chaos, utter chaos. What is my next step? So if they haven't made a decision of where they want to go, then that's the very first thing.
Yes. And I think so many times we forget to decide that we want it to be different.
Yeah.
We forget to make that first commitment that I am no longer going to sit here and do whatever it is that I'm doing that's not getting me where I want to go. I'm going to decide that this is the life I want to have, and I'm going to commit to making that decision.
And when we do that 5-step process in the middle of a shitstorm, yes, it will get us to the other side of it. It'll transform the situation. What else do we need to know about utilizing that 5-step process, and what the benefits are, what it will look like when we're actually doing it? Tell us a little bit more.
Okay, sure. So I'm in my mind as you're bringing that up, what's coming to visually for me is you're standing there, it's raining, it's a massive shitstorm, right? And you can sit there and continue to be shat upon for hours on end. Or then you can decide that I don't want to be anymore. So you can pull out your clear umbrella and making the decision and committing to it. So you pull it out and then you open it and then you become focused on, okay, I don't want to be in this shitstorm anymore. But now that I have my clear umbrella up, I can at least wipe my face off and see where, what direction I need to get going in. Right?
So is it clear so that you can hold the umbrella in the direction that you need to go and move towards that? Why is it clear?
The clear is so that you can look up and see the beautiful canvas of yellow and brown and white that has just landed on your umbrella. It's not hitting you anymore. And when you look upward, it is just a gorgeous canvas of splattered paint. And so it's finding the appreciating all of it and finding a way to appreciate it.
Yeah, I hear perspective, like give yourself some space from the onslaught, from the chaos, and say, hey, it's okay. I'm not dying, or I'm not dead. So what can I do now?
So there's a possibility for something to change. And there's the one step better thought, right? There's a possibility that I can get myself out of this mess. I think this is huge. As we're talking here, I'm thinking this is so huge for teens as they're, they get the F on the letter grade, or, we had someone relatively locally that didn't do well on school, on a test, or maybe even got caught cheating or something, and had been a high performing student. And was called to the office, and before the office could get a hold of the parents, went home and committed suicide. And I think it's so important. Yeah, I think it's so important for teens to understand that if you're still breathing, there's a possibility that that this will change. It will pass.
Wow.
It's not from now until the end of time that you're going to feel this intense grief or shame or whatever it is that I think leads people to those rash decisions. And I know it's not rash because it's over time that they get themselves to this place, but it's rash in the exact moment that the act happens.
And even like a story like Nelson Mandela, right, who's like in prison,
right.
like just totally has no hope of, you know, anything, but he still managed to stay alive because he had that possibility. He held on to something, to some kind of future, and just every day taking the next step, every day just hanging on to that possibility, sourcing from that possibility of I'm alive again today, so there's a reason why I'm here. What's the next step?
Yes, and I remember at a point in my life where I would wake up and I would be like, nothing is wrong today. So today is perfect.
Wow.
And we're going to start with the mindset that it's going to stay that way for the whole day. And then, you know, obviously something happened, you know, I don't know, get your, you know, step on gum. I mean, there's something small, even in the best of days, right?
Yep,
you know,
yep.
But it was just, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I get to start all over again. So no matter how messed up today is, tomorrow is perfect on its own. Until something, you know, happens to mess it up. And then I can choose for it to ruin the perfect day, or I can choose for it to just be something that happened.
Yeah.
So, so you going back to the shitstorm. So you got to focus. You got to decide to get out of it. You got to focus, and you've got to say, I want to get from here to there. I see the clearing. It's not raining shit 10 feet from here or 100 yards or 5 miles. So I'm going to head that direction. And then when you get tired and you're tired of carrying the umbrella and it's still raining and whatever, it's staying focused. That's where I want to be. So I'm going to keep taking the next step and the next best thought. What's the possibility on the other side of that place that I'm heading, and all of those things. And then it's a believing that the way I'm going is the right way, and listening to your internal GPS system for that guidance. Yes, you're going the right way. Keep going. You don't need to know how. Just keep going.
And even if you have to take a break, even if you have to like lay your umbrella down, lay down on the sidewalk and get beat up a little bit, but you get back up after you've rested and you keep going, then hey, you are moving forward. You are progressing.
Yes, I think people forget too that taking that rest never feels as bad. Like I think people are afraid of setting down because they're like, I'm going to go all the way back to where I was. And it's like this, it doesn't, it's just a moment.
Yeah.
It's not, you didn't go backward. You just weren't going forward.
Yeah.
You just stopped for a minute.
Even in that moment of pause, like what wondrous experience can be had in that, right? There might be this temporary connection to possibility and be like, oh my gosh, like, isn't it beautiful how far I've already come? Isn't it beautiful where I'm going? Isn't it going to be amazing when I'm on the other side of that, on the other side of this? And just in the moment to appreciate what is sounds difficult, but I think that we can catch those glimpses of inspiration and possibility if we allow ourselves to just be in the present moment and not bring all the judgment and meaning and shame and guilt and whatever else has come with it, and just be.
Yeah, and I think the just staying in the possibility of things keeps your energy in the right place, right? And I think not like being comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So I'm comfortable in this place of not knowing. I'm comfortable in the place of there's possibility in the future and not knowing what that might be or what it might look like or how it's necessarily going to play into your life.
This is gold, Missy.
Yeah.
I'm loving this conversation.
I'm enjoying it too. It's fun.
This
It's
is a
fun.
blast. I feel like we're riffing so well off each other. It's so much fun. So
Yeah.
I want to dive more into the energy side of things to expand our capacity, especially for the leaders and influencers, entrepreneurs who are out there. Tell us a little bit more about what is an energetic capacity and how do we expand it? How do we go about like really focusing on our energy and making it like almost this weapon, this transformational tool, this like magic wand that can create the reality of our dreams. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I love the fact that you use the word weapon because to me it's like it's your superpower.
Yes.
It is showing up in your truest, authentic, energetic potency is your
Yeah.
superpower. You and I think it's so interesting too with people like they're so busy wanting to sell something or things and people aren't buying your product. They're buying your energy. They're buying your connection to you because it's you just happen to have a program that meets their needs, but they're connecting with you. And that's the superpower, right? That's what we're talking about. So, and energy, so many times people, they get busy down a path or a thought that collapses their energy. And it shuts them down. It's almost like everything gets pinched off. Like at the beginning, we were having a little technical difficulties, and it would be really easy to pinch off all source of any of your thoughts that are coming to you and get stuck in those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, it's not working. What am I going to do? And or for you on the other end to be like, oh my gosh, what's this guest? And to be and be pinching off possibilities. And instead, if you can learn in those moments to take the breath that's expansive and say, what are the possibilities in this moment? So that your energy doesn't collapse. Because once your energy collapses, you might as well just, shut all circuits off. Nobody's connecting to you. So, people might be connecting, but it's the people that don't necessarily resonate with your true self. They're the people that are resonating with whatever energy you're putting at 70% wattage.
Yeah. And so I love what you said there about like the conversation is like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? This is a total mess, right? Total judgment, total contraction of energy, and that could impact the rest of the interview, the 12-hour marathon, etc., whatever it might be. Or we can say, hey, there's some technical difficulties. I wonder how magical these next, 45 minutes of interview can be. Like, what's going to happen? I think that we both stepped into that energy to just have fun and like show up. Yeah. And that's what created this epic conversation. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. I do too. And I love, because I think sometimes when people plan things or they think too much about it, then you miss the opportunity of the present moment. Like we've talked all over the place in this time, in this time period together. And for some people, the people that know me well know that's the way my brain is like ping, 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 ping. And so, jump on, enjoy the ride. And so I think, that if you're not in the present moment though, you miss the opportunity to have those spontaneous conversations or to let the energy connect. Instead, you're focused on the material that you're giving or whatever it might be. I remember one time somebody referred to me as you're such an expert at pivoting. And I was like, I don't know if at first, if I didn't know the person the way I knew them, she was a very professional woman who I respected and trusted. And she wasn't saying it in a negative way. She was truly admiring my ability to pivot. Yeah. If it had come from just about any other handful of people, I might've been like, wait, what? That feels like a backhanded compliment. And so I think, but because it came to me and I trusted that it's coming to me from this person because I would receive it differently from them.
Yeah.
It changed the way that I viewed the ability to be on a path and see a possibility and take it and not be so set on having the exact right thing laid out and to just feel into, my energy is pulling me this way. My GPS is saying, yes, go. It's the voice behind those thoughts that are racing that are saying, oh my God, it's not going to work. The headphones aren't here. Da, 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 da. Those are the thoughts. And it's finding that voice behind the thoughts that to hone into that and guide you so that you're in your energetic potency when opportunities present themselves.
Yeah, and I think another metaphor that really comes to mind, Missy, is being in a dance, being in a dance with life, being in a dance with the
Yes.
universe. And also, when you said pivot, the word that first popped into my mind was transmutation, right? Like, I will
Oh,
transmute anything you send at me, life, to make it my plaything, to blossom my creation into what is in the highest and best good for myself and everyone around me in the world, and bring forth love and my greatest gifts. That is my gift of transmutation, to make magic out of what other people would look at garbage and sand and just these raw materials.
yes, yes, exactly. And it's the whole, like, that's staying present. It's
Yeah.
appreciating every part of your journey. That we're saying it in different ways,
Yeah.
in different scenarios, to make sure that it's picked up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, if you're not hearing it this way, hear it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the pivot is an important piece of
Yeah.
staying present and staying open to possibilities and expansive mindset, so that you don't collapse your energy. It's all it's all the same.
Juicy. Missy, this is
Yeah.
epic. I want to tell people, like, in wrapping up, final takeaway of what you want them to
Sure.
really get, and then how they can stay connected with you. What are the next steps, and how can they continue their journey?
What I'd love for people to get is that anybody can have an extraordinary life. In fact,
Mm.
everyone does have an extraordinary life. And tapping into your own internal GPS system will guide you to it. And trusting that your voice knows better than anyone else's. Um, it, that is key. And it just, I want for everyone to get to experience the joy of the adventure, and that it's not a straight path, and the
Mm.
journey is all of it. And as spiritual beings, we're here on earth for uh, to grow the spirit,
Yeah.
and there's no other point to it, really.
Mm.
And so you are going to have contrast, and you are going to have people that trigger you, and you are going to have things that happen to you that you consider bad, because those things are necessary for your soul to go where it needs to be going on its time here on earth.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would be my biggest takeaways, and to bring your clear umbrella.
So good. So good. How can people take the next steps with you? What are the different ways they can get
Sure.
involved?
So anybody is welcome to reach out to me on my own personal email, which is Marissa McCracken. It's MarisaMcCracken
Mhm.
at hotmail.com. They can reach out on LinkedIn. I'm Missy McCracken, and on Facebook, Missy McCracken.
So beautiful. And then, like, with coaching, working with you, tell us a little bit more about what that would look like.
So I work with individuals, and I also work with teams, athletic
Okay.
teams,
Okay.
to help them in their journeys, performance blocks, and some of the issues that we talked about at the beginning,
Mhm.
transition from life with sport to life without. And also, we do vision board workshops for their season. And then I do workshops with groups of people, but they're all the non-sport, non-athletic workshops are sign up individually,
Mm.
and but participate as a group in a workshop. So, and then athletes can reach me also on the Athletes Village, which
Okay.
is I'm an expert on their forum there,
Mhm.
and they have a Facebook page where they post questions for experts.
That's rad. I love it. I love it. Missy,
Yeah, it's really cool.
this
It's
has
so
been a
fun.
blast. I feel like we just barely scratched the surface
I,
of, like, what we could dive into. All that you know and experience and teach your clients and help facilitate people to really expand their energetic potency and capacity. It's been a blast. And for everyone who's tuning in, definitely stay connected with Missy. Send her a message. Say what your biggest takeaway was in this interview. It was a blast. And Missy, thank you so much for being here.